I found her earring in the washing machine. Not both. Just one. The left one. The one with the tiny blue gem I never liked because it looked fake. I held it in my hand while the machine beeped like nothing happened. Like my whole marriage didn't just rattle loose in a spin cycle. She hadn't worn those earrings in years. I asked her about it that night, calmly, like a man who wasn't dying inside. She was brushing her teeth. She looked at the earring in my palm like it was a rock I picked up from the street. "Oh, weird," she said, toothpaste foaming on her lip. "I thought I lost that." That was it. No panic. No confusion. No, "Where did you find it?" Just a dismissive shrug and spit into the sink. My heart didn't break right there. It just folded a little, like a paper crane with one wing torn. She asked for a break 3 days later. Not during a fight. Not after something heavy. We were folding laundry. She was matching socks. She didn't even look up when she said it. "I think I need space. Just for a bit. Just to breathe." And like an idiot, I said, "Okay." Because I thought it was adult of me. Mature. I thought it meant we were safe. That space was better than silence. She packed in under 30 minutes. Took the essentials, which somehow didn't include our wedding album, but did include the perfume I told her once smelled like someone else's memory. She kissed me on the cheek before walking out. Not the lips. The cheek. Like a stranger being polite. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed and counted the seconds between texts she never sent. I stared at the indentation her body left on the mattress. I took the earring back out and placed it on her pillow like some kind of offering. It's still there, mocking me. I didn't go through her phone. I didn't track her. I just waited. Like a dog. Like a fool. But here's the part she didn't plan for. The part that'll haunt her smile forever. The papers were already printed before she even called me. And when I handed them to her, face blank, voice calm, she actually said, "Wait, what is this?" Like I hadn't spent 2 weeks peeling off layers of my own soul. Like she hadn't walked away first. She wanted a break. So I gave her one. Right in the form of my signature. There's a weird kind of loneliness that hits when you hear your own laugh echo off the walls and realize no one's there to laugh with you. 2 days after Nora left, I accidentally played a voicemail from her saved in my phone. It was an old one. She was yelling at me for forgetting her sandwich order. "No tomatoes, Elian. I'm allergic to your memory, I swear." She laughed at the end. I used to think that laugh was the sound of love. Now it just sounded like a warning I never heard in time. I replayed it 7 times. The house was too clean. I had cleaned it like a crime scene after she left, hoping order would silence the chaos in my chest. I rearranged everything she touched, then rearranged it again, as if moving the furniture would somehow undo the space she carved out of my life. That Saturday, I went into our closet. I don't even know why. Maybe to torture myself. Maybe to see if she left anything that smelled like her. But everything she left behind felt strategic. Old hoodie. A broken hair clip. Socks with no pair. Nothing real. Nothing warm. It's like she staged her absence to feel accidental. But I noticed something that twisted my gut more than anything. She'd taken her orange suitcase. Not the usual overnight bag. The orange one. The one we bought for our honeymoon in Lisbon. The one she swore was too ugly for anything romantic. I only remembered it because of the childish sticker on the side. A flamingo and sunglasses. She hated that thing. She only used it when she didn't care what I thought. And that's when it clicked. This wasn't a break. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't a spontaneous emotional collapse. This was planned. Like a prison escape. I don't know what kind of self-preservation instinct kicked in, but something broke inside me that night. Not the "I miss her" kind of break. More like a pressure valve finally snapping after months of holding in things I couldn't name. So I did something I never thought I would. I sat down at my computer, opened a blank document, typed 2 words, dissolution agreement. No rage. No drama. Just letters and spaces and facts. I filled out every detail with the kind of obsessive precision only a man like me could bring to a breakup. Asset list. Division of belongings. No alimony request. No bitterness. Just a clean, surgical cut. And then I sent it to her. Not with a dramatic note. No guilt tripping. Just a simple subject line. "You asked for space. I'm giving you more than enough." She didn't reply that night. Or the next. But then came Monday. And I'll never forget the call. It was 4:17 p.m. I was halfway through eating cold leftovers on the couch when my phone rang. Her number. My hands trembled. Not with fear, just anticipation, like watching a car crash in slow motion. I answered. She was crying. But it wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was confusion. Confusion. Elian, what is this? Why did you send this? I didn't. I didn't mean for things to go that far. Oh, so now there were limits. Now there were boundaries. Now it was too far. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told her the truth. I found your earring in the washing machine, Nora. You left your smile on someone else's pillow. All I'm doing is returning the favor. Silence. For a long time. And then the smallest whisper. I wasn't ready for this. And I, finally, honestly said, I was never ready for you to leave. Nora didn't call again for 3 days. During that time, I didn't sleep much. Not out of heartbreak, but because my brain wouldn't stop cataloging every moment I'd ignored. All the tiny warning signs I filed away as marriage stuff. The quiet glances at her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. The sudden password change on her laptop because of work security. The long showers with music blasting loud enough to drown out secrets. All those little things that didn't scream infidelity, but whispered it constantly. I'd spent the last 6 years thinking love was maintenance. Dishes, bills, checking in, remembering her coffee order, hazelnut, 2 sugars, no cream, not because of calories, but because cream makes it taste like regret. I thought that was love. I thought small things added up to something permanent. Turns out, they add up to silence when the other person is already gone. When Nora finally did call again, her voice had changed. No more fragile tones. No tears. She was composed. Calculated. She asked if we could meet. Just talk. Somewhere neutral, she said, like we were strangers dividing territory after a Cold War. We met at a coffee shop we used to hate. Not a joke. We used to drive past that shop and laugh about how sterile it looked. Coffee for people who like the smell of printers, she once said. And yet, that's where she chose to meet. I almost didn't show, but some part of me needed closure. Or maybe I just wanted to see if she could lie to my face as easily as she could over the phone. She was already seated when I arrived. Wearing the green coat I bought her last fall. The one she said made her feel like a spy in an old movie. She smiled when she saw me, but it was awkward. Too long. Too wide. Like someone trying to recall how humans behave. I sat down. No handshake. No hug. Just a nod. She started with small talk. Asked about work. Said I looked tired. I said I wasn't here to swap wellness updates. I wanted honesty. She took a breath and said it. I made a mistake. That's it. 4 words. Softly spoken. Like she had knocked over a vase and was asking me to help her glue it back together. I didn't say anything. I just blinked. Because I suddenly realized I wasn't sad anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was curious. Detached almost. Like watching your old house burn down on the news. You know the rooms. You know what's inside. But it doesn't belong to you anymore. I asked her what the mistake was. She said, thinking I needed something new. I asked her who he was. She flinched. Then she gave me a name. Carter. Apparently someone from her gym. Of course. I don't even know why it stung. I don't even go to the gym. She swore it was short. It didn't mean anything, she said. The classics. But here's the thing. Infidelity isn't just about sex. It's about the planning. The time. The mind space someone uses to construct an entirely separate version of themselves without you in it. She had built a secret life, not just a fling. And then she tried to collapse it into a single sentence and hand it to me like a gift-wrapped apology. I told her I appreciated the honesty. I paid for my coffee. And then I said something that surprised even me. I'm not angry at you. I'm angry at the version of me that believed we were safe. She didn't reply. She just looked at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. Maybe she didn't. Maybe I didn't either. I stood up and left. Outside, I breathed in the cold air. And for the first time in months, it didn't hurt. After that conversation in the cafe, I didn't hear from Nora for almost 2 weeks. No texts. No emails. No accidental. Hey, just thinking about you late-night messages. Nothing. It's strange how quiet the world becomes after someone stops lying to you. There's no more white noise. No more background guilt humming beneath the surface. Just silence. Real, bone-deep silence. And for the first time, I realized how much noise she used to bring into my life. Some of it was joy, sure, but a lot of it was just clutter. I spent those 2 weeks deleting her from everything. Not dramatically. Not like I was burning pictures or throwing things into the fireplace. No, I'm not that cinematic. I just edited her out. Quietly. I took her off my emergency contacts. removed her fingerprint from the door lock, canceled our shared subscriptions, even changed the name of the Wi-Fi from Nora Loves Books to No More Lies _5G. Stupid? Maybe. But it helped. And then came the message. She didn't even call this time. Just a message that read, "Can I come by the house? I left some books. I think they're in the study." Books. Of course it was books. The last tie to the life she built in my space. She didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask if it was a bad time. Just books. Like we were neighbors who had once shared a porch. I almost ignored it. I almost deleted it and kept pretending she no longer existed. But part of me wanted to see her again. Not to talk. Not to reconnect. But to witness her in the aftermath of what she did. I didn't want revenge. I'm too emotionally soft for that. But I did want one thing. I wanted her to walk into a life that had moved on without her. And I wanted her to feel it. So I said yes. I set everything up the next day. Not to be cruel. I'm not that person. But to be undeniable. I opened every window in the house. Let in the cold, clean air. Lit a candle. Not one she ever liked. But one I bought recently. Something warm, something mine. I placed her books neatly on the hallway table, already boxed and labeled. Nothing left to search for. No excuses to stay. When she arrived, she knocked. She had never knocked before. She stepped inside and paused. I could feel her eyes scanning the space, trying to find herself in it. But she was gone. The photos were rearranged. The couch had been rotated. The tea set she loved had been put away. I didn't do any of this to spite her. I did it to exhale. And now she was standing in the middle of my breath. "Hey," she said, softly. "Your box is right there." I replied, not cold, just factual. She nodded, didn't move toward it. Then came the inevitable line. "This feels different." I didn't answer. She didn't deserve a summary of my healing. She walked to the box slowly, picked it up. Her fingers trembled a little. I noticed that. Maybe from the cold. Maybe not. She didn't look at me. Just stood there holding it like it was heavier than it should have been. Then she said, "I've been thinking a lot." "Don't," I said, cutting her off. Calmly. "Thinking got us here." She looked like she might cry, but she didn't. Nora never cried when it counted. She only cried when it made the moment easier to navigate. Before she turned to leave, she glanced around one more time. Her voice almost vanished when she spoke next. "I didn't think you'd let go this fast." I smiled. A tired, hollow kind of smile. I didn't either. But apparently, I'm more resilient without you than I ever was with you. She didn't respond. Just nodded, adjusted the box in her arms, and walked out the door. She didn't look back. And neither did I. Not even once. I thought letting her go would feel like release. Like cutting off a heavy rope from my ankle and floating up for air. And for a few days, it did. The silence in the house didn't feel hostile anymore. It felt earned. Peaceful. I drank coffee without wondering if she'd text. I fell asleep without replaying her footsteps in the hallway. I even started listening to music again, the kind I liked before her playlists infected my phone like vines swallowing a fence. But the thing no one tells you about getting over someone is this: you don't just lose them. You lose the version of yourself that existed with them. I wasn't ready for that. Because who was I, now that I wasn't her husband? Not just legally, emotionally, mentally, habitually. I had been Nora's husband in conversations, in social settings, in casual jokes at the office. Her shadow had become my second skin. And now that skin was gone, what was left was raw and strange and eerily quiet. People started asking questions. Mutual friends, coworkers, even my sister. They all came creeping around the edges with polite concern. Just checking in. "How are things? Have you heard from her?" I didn't answer most of them. I wasn't trying to be rude. I just didn't have the language yet to explain what I was going through. It wasn't heartbreak. It wasn't anger. It was unrecognition. Like staring in the mirror and thinking, "I know you, but I don't remember liking you." I started writing in a journal. That's new for me. The kind of thing I would have rolled my eyes at before. But there was something soothing about putting things on paper, because paper doesn't interrupt you. It doesn't judge or suggest yoga or say, everything happens for a reason. It just sits there and absorbs. Like a friend that knows how to be quiet. One entry stuck out more than the others. I wrote it around 2 a.m. on a Thursday after waking up from a dream where she asked to come home, and I said yes. In the dream, she smiled. And I smiled. And we made pancakes. But I woke up cold, sweaty, and shaking. This is what I wrote that night. She hurt me, yes. But I let her. For years. Not just when she left, long before that. I stopped asking questions. I stopped challenging distance. I made her comfort more important than my clarity. That's on me. That realization didn't feel empowering. It felt humiliating. Because the truth is, I didn't lose Nora in one betrayal. I lost her in small increments, quietly, over time, by apologizing when she was cruel, by laughing off the dismissive comments, by calling her mood swings charming, by silencing my discomfort to protect her ego. She didn't just cheat on me with another man. She cheated on me with the version of herself I pretended not to see. I was complicit in my own undoing. But now that I could see that, really see it, something shifted. Not dramatically. I didn't go shave my head or fly to Peru or post a gym selfie with some ridiculous caption like "Revenge Arc Activated." I just sat with it. With myself. Without music. Without distractions. Just me. And all the parts of me I'd left in drawers and boxes during those 6 years with her. And then, 2 days later, I got the letter. Not an email. Not a message. A handwritten letter in a cream-colored envelope slid into my mailbox like a ghost trying to whisper. It wasn't long. Just 2 pages. I almost didn't open it. But I did. And what it said made my hands shake. Not because it was cruel, but because it was worse. It was honest. And it was the first time I saw her without her mask. The envelope smelled like her. That was the first mistake. She must have sprayed her perfume on it without thinking, or maybe she did it on purpose. Either way, the scent pulled something up from my chest I thought I'd buried. I almost set the whole thing on fire just to make it stop. But curiosity is a cruel addiction, especially when you're starving for answers you're not sure you want. The handwriting was hers. Sharp and elegant. She always wrote like someone who was certain of everything, even when she was lying through her teeth. I expected the usual lines, the same rehearsed apologies people copy from the internet and paste into their confessions. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't know what I was doing. You deserved better. But that's not what it was. It started like this. Elian, I thought for a long time about whether I should write this. The truth is, I don't want forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this to the end. But I need to say some things out loud, even if it's only on paper. Especially because I couldn't say them to your face. I sat down on the floor to read it. Not the couch. Not the desk. Just the floor. Like my body instinctively knew this was going to knock the wind out of me. She didn't beg. She didn't blame. Instead, she laid herself bare in a way that made me uncomfortable, because it was the kind of honesty that strips people of sympathy. She admitted that she'd been unhappy for a long time. But not because I was cruel. Not because I neglected her or made her feel small. No, she said the quiet thing most people are too afraid to confess. You loved me so completely that I felt like I didn't need to love you back with the same weight. And over time, I started resenting you for it. Not because you were wrong, but because I felt guilty every time I looked at you and realized I didn't love you the same anymore. That was the sentence that made my vision go blurry. She didn't stop there. Carter wasn't about sex. It wasn't passion or revenge or lust. It was ease. It was walking into a room and not being expected to be someone's world. He didn't know me the way you did. That was the point. With you, I always felt like I was living in a museum of your affection. Every gesture you made reminded me of how far I'd drifted. She wrote that she never intended to leave for good, that the break was supposed to be a temporary escape. But the more time she spent away from me, the more she realized she didn't want to come back to who she was when she was with me. She didn't like that version of herself. You held me like I was a fragile masterpiece. But I wanted to be touched like I was a person, not a prize. That line hit harder than any insult could have. Because deep down, I knew it was true. I put her on a pedestal so high that she couldn't breathe. I mistook devotion for safety. I worshipped her in a way that made her feel more like a role than a woman. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't controlling. But it was suffocating. By the time I reached the end of the letter, my hands were shaking. I'm not asking to come back. I wouldn't fit there anymore. I just needed you to know that it wasn't about someone else. It was about me, and the way I disappeared behind the glass of your love. I hope one day you stop trying to be perfect. I hope you find someone who doesn't want to be saved. Goodbye, Nora. I folded the letter and sat there in silence. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the victim. I didn't feel like the betrayed one. I felt human. And so did she. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I didn't text her some half-baked reply. I walked outside barefoot, stood in the middle of my backyard under the streetlight, and whispered, "Thank you." Not for what she did, but for finally telling the truth. The truth I wasn't brave enough to admit when she was still mine. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even try. After reading Nora's letter, I just sat there, on the cold kitchen floor, for hours, somewhere between exhaustion and clarity. The light above the stove buzzed like it was mocking me, and the fridge kicked on every 20 minutes just to remind me the world didn't care about my epiphanies. She had told the truth, finally, and it felt like she'd handed me a key to a door I'd already walked through, locked, and tried to forget. But now I was back inside, wandering through the rooms of a marriage I no longer lived in, touching memories that didn't hurt the way they used to. They just hummed quietly, like scars beneath the skin. The next morning, I walked through the house with fresh eyes. For the first time, I wasn't looking for her absence. I was looking for mine. All the places I had made myself smaller, quieter, easier. All the times I had smiled through discomfort, swallowed questions, accepted silence. I started seeing versions of myself hidden behind furniture, behind routines, behind little sacrifices I made without even realizing I was bleeding. I opened my closet and found the birthday gift I never gave her. A hardcover first edition of her favorite author. I had wrapped it in dark blue paper and tucked it away weeks before everything fell apart. I pulled it out and stared at it like it was a relic from a life that had died without a funeral. Then I did something I didn't expect. I wrote her a letter. Not to send. Not for revenge. Not for closure. Just because I needed to speak. Asterisk Nora. You were right. I did try to love you like a cathedral. With awe. With reverence. With silence where questions should have lived. I thought if I never challenged you, you'd stay. If I never made you uncomfortable, you'd bloom. But all I did was build a glass box around you and call it safety. I forgot that love isn't maintenance. It's movement. It's friction and forgiveness and two flawed people choosing each other over and over again. Not because it's perfect, but because they're willing to fight for the same fire. And you stopped fighting long before I noticed. Maybe because I never let you speak without first writing the script in my head. I don't forgive you yet, but I understand you now. And that's something. I hope wherever you are, you finally stop performing. I hope you let someone see you without your mask. I hope you dance again, not for anyone else, but just because you want to feel the ground move. Goodbye. Alien asterisk. I didn't cry when I wrote it, but I did feel something collapse, something that had been holding me up for too long, like an emotional crutch made of denial. And once it was gone, I stood straighter. Not stronger. Not healed. Just straighter. Like my spine remembered it belonged to someone who deserved to take up space. That night, I cooked dinner for myself for the first time in weeks. Not a sandwich. Not takeout. A real meal. I played a jazz album I used to love before Nora told me it gave her headaches. I poured a glass of wine. Sat at the table alone. And for the first time since the break, it didn't feel like I was waiting for someone who wasn't coming. I was just existing. And then, as if summoned by the final thread I had just cut loose, my phone lit up. Unknown number. No voicemail. Just a text. I'm sorry. I shouldn't be texting. I just saw the book. You kept it. I stared at the screen for a long time. The gift she never received. Somehow, she had found it. Maybe I left it out by accident. Maybe she had come by while I was gone. I'll never know. But there it was, her presence in the present, trying to echo through the door I had finally closed. I locked the phone, turned the music up, and whispered to the empty room. You don't live here anymore. Spring came early. It wasn't dramatic. No movie montage sunshine or birds chirping outside my window like some kind of cheesy rebirth. It just arrived. Quietly. The snow melted. The wind softened. And one morning I woke up and realized the house no longer felt like a museum of what used to be. It just felt like mine. There's a kind of peace that comes when you stop trying to rewrite the past. I used to replay every moment with Nora like I could edit the ending if I just stared at it long enough. But I finally stopped watching those old scenes. I stopped trying to find the exact second everything cracked. It didn't matter anymore. The crack was there. And now, so was I, still standing. I didn't block her number. I didn't delete her name. I didn't need to. Her presence didn't haunt me anymore. I had let go without needing her to watch me do it. That was the real win. Not indifference, but peace. The funny part? I started smiling again. Not the polite, chin-up smile you give people when they ask how you're doing and you lie. I mean actual smiles. The kind that sneak up on you when you hear your favorite song in the supermarket or catch your reflection and realize you look like someone who's been sleeping well. I even started painting again. That's something not many people knew about me. Before Nora, I used to paint small canvases. Nothing professional, just textures, color studies, strange little shapes that made me feel calm. I stopped around the time we moved in together. She called them pretty but pointless, and I guess part of me believed her. But now my apartment has 3 new paintings hanging in the hallway, and they're not pointless. They're mine. A few weeks ago, I met someone. Not in some fairy tale, fireworks, destiny way. Nothing romantic yet. Just someone. Her name's Marin. She works at the bookstore 2 blocks from my place. We talk about weird books and old movies, and sometimes we don't talk at all, which somehow feels even better. She doesn't know everything about me. I don't know everything about her. And that's the beauty of it. We're not rushing to fill space. We're just sharing it. Last Friday, she brought me coffee. Hazelnut, 2 sugars, no cream. I smiled when I tasted it. Not because it reminded me of Nora, but because it didn't. That night, I went for a walk. The moon was out. The air was crisp. And I realized something strange. I wasn't thinking about who I used to be. I wasn't measuring my healing. I wasn't replaying anything. I was just walking, breathing, existing, living. And maybe that's what real closure looks like. Not slamming a door shut or burning old letters. But waking up one day and realizing you didn't think about them at all. Realizing your heart is no longer trying to convince the past to apologize. Realizing you've outgrown the pain. I didn't get revenge. I didn't get an apology that fixed everything. But I got me back. And honestly, that's more than enough.